All right, so let's look at the assignment. All right, so it says measure of angle 1 equals measure of angle 2. So I'm going to go ahead and mark on the circle. These are exactly the same. And it says measure of angle 1 is 9x plus 5. And it says measure of angle 2 is 4x plus 35. Okay. We're going to set them equal to each other. Why are we going to do that? Because it says they're equal. Okay. So 9x plus 5 equals 4x plus 35. And then what should I do? Okay. So minus 4x. And then Kaylee also said to subtract the 5. So x equals 6. Okay. So if x is 6, then what do each of these angles actually equal? 9 times 6 plus 5, or what is that? 59. Do you agree with that? 9 times 6 is 54 plus 5. Yeah, 59. So this is 59 degrees. Let me go ahead and erase this. $59, $59. It doesn't mean it's 59. It means this whole thing is how much? Okay. Yep, because 59 plus 59 is 118. And so it's the same on each side. So if that's a straight line, what's angle 3 going to be? 118 and 62. So this is going to be 62. Yeah, so these are vertical angles, so they're the same. Okay, so measure of angle 3 is 62. CPD. CPB, sorry. 118. Okay, now it's asking about the arcs. So these are all central angles. Is it double?
No,
they're the same. So which are the ones that are double?
Oh, that's the one that goes from
it touches the outside of the circle. So this is a central angle, so the arc and the angle are identical. They're exactly the same. The only time we double the angle is if the angle's on the edge of the circle. Okay, so this arc is 62, this arc is 118, this arc is 62, this arc is 59, this arc is 59. Okay, so now we have the measure of arc AE is 59, okay. The measure of arc EC, 121, so from E to C you'd have to add 59 and 62. And these only have 2 letters. What does it mean if an arc only has 2 letters? It's a minor arc, which means it's less than half a circle. Okay. This one has 3 letters, CBE. What does that mean? It's a major arc. It's more than half a circle. So from C to B to E, 121 plus 118. You said 239?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So that was a good little review of do we remember anything from before Thanksgiving? We do. We remember some stuff, so that's good. That's a good sign. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're actually going to use those formulas that we learned from watching the video over break. So it says calculate the length of AB. Write the first 3 lengths in terms of pi, and then round the second 3 to the nearest thousandth. So we are going to need a calculator, so go ahead and bring me a cell phone. You're going to trade me. Ready to go. Greg, does everyone have their own calculator? Oh, you just don't want to trade. Oh, so what do you have a value? That's the most valuable thing you have. Maybe you have a good friend who would trade their phone for you. No one's gonna take one for the team. They want their phone. Alright. It's okay. Alright. Do you have a whole pie in front of you? And that's what you're eating? Nick, you were sitting there with an entire... That's fine. It just was kind of... It should be good. Tell it again. Do it again. It's better now. Yeah. They do that sometimes.
Okay.
Alright. No, you are good. Alright. So the length of the arc, I'm looking at the whiteboard because we wrote this formula up there. So the length of the arc AB is what? What's the formula? The length of the arc is... Formula's on the board. The measure of AB divided by 360 times 2 pi r. So the difference between these two things is that this is talking about the length in like inches or feet or centimeters or something. Measure of AB is talking about degrees. How many degrees is it? Okay, so they're different. All right, so for number 7, we're going to say the length of AB is the measure of AB. What's the measure of AB? It's 80. So see this right here, it says 80. And so that means that the measure of AB would be 80 degrees as well. So 80 degrees out of 360 degrees times 2 pi r. The radius is 12, so what would I write? 2 pi 12. Okay. They said they want this answer in terms of pi. And when they do that, that means don't plug it in your calculator because they don't want decimals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type 80 divided by 360 times, and instead of writing 2 times pi times 12, I'm just going to say 2 times 12. I'm going to leave the pi out. Okay. How do I make this not a decimal? Math. Hit the math button. I did that really fast. So hit math. Number 1 is fraction, so we're going to take that decimal, turn it into a fraction. 16 thirds. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write 16 thirds. Since I didn't type in the pi, I'm going to stick a pi on the end. So 16 thirds pi. That's how I write my answer in terms of pi. And then we had centimeters. So what do I write for my units? cm. So that's a length, so it's just plain old cm.
So we're only square when we're doing sector area?
Because only area has units squared. Okay. All right, let's try the next one. So for the first 3, they wanted our answer in terms of pi. For the second 3, they wanted our answer in decimal form. So let's go ahead and start it again. We have arc AB is, and what should I write? 60 out of 360 times
7.3.
Okay, so 2 pi r. This time we're going to type it in exactly the way it looks. So 60 divided by 360 times 2. How do I get the pi button on my screen?
Second, and then we'll up and...
Yeah, second up arrow. So second up arrow, 2 pi 7.3. So if you can see it, I do it exactly the way it looks on my paper. And then I get 7.645. And what are the units on this one? Centimeters. So exact same formula, and one I'm plugging in the pi and one I'm not. But it works out exactly the same. Okay, so go ahead and get started on the other 4, and then we'll do another example in a minute. All right, on this page it says calculate the area of the sector. So we're going to say area of AB is what? Okay. And again in the instructions it says to write the first three, and instead of lengths it should say areas. Go ahead and fix that. I didn't even notice. Write the first three areas in terms of pi, and round the second three to the nearest thousandth. So first three, leave the pi in there. Exactly what we just did, slightly different formula. So for the first one, what should we write? Okay, so when I do it in my calculator to leave the answer in terms of pi, I'm just going to put 11 squared. I'm going to type everything but the pi. So 45 over 360 times 11 squared. Now, this is a nice decimal, so if you want to write 15.125 pi, that's okay, because I don't have to round that decimal to write it down. I can just write the whole thing. So if you have a decimal that's like 0.25 or 0.5 or 0.8, something like that, like a nice decimal, you can write that. Or you can turn it into a fraction. It's up to you. Yes. All right, so either of these answers is good, and then centimeters squared. Those are both fine. It's an area. Okay. What should I do for the next one? This is the one where I'm going to do it in decimal form for the answer. So what should I start writing? And this time, I'm going to type all of it in, including the pi. The answers are the same. One's just an exact answer, and one is approximate. So whenever I round a decimal, I get an approximate answer. Whenever I don't round, then I get an exact answer. All right, so this one is approximately 982.969 centimeters squared. Okay, and my guess is you guys are going to be okay with those, so I do want to go on to the next one just to make sure that we can handle it. Okay, so this one says find the measure of AB. So we're going to ditch the formulas to the right of the whiteboard. We're going to go back to the proportions on the left side. Okay, so if we look at the proportion on the left side, we have one where they have the arc length, one where they have the sector area. Which of these formulas do you think we're going to use based on the information they gave us in 19? Does it look like they gave us an area, or does it look like they gave us an arc length? They gave us an arc length. They said the measure, or the length from A to B is 12.56. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the proportion that we have for arc length. So I'm going to say measure of arc AB divided by 360 equals the length of AB divided by 2 pi r. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in as much information as I can. Okay, so measure of arc AB is what I'm actually solving for, so I don't know what that is. So measure of arc AB divided by 360 equals the length of AB divided by 2 pi r. So the length of AB is 12.56 divided by 2 pi times 12. Okay. So what could I do to get the measure of AB all alone? I want this by itself. Not subtract, multiply. So right now we're dividing by 360, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply 360 to the other side. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and type this in as a fraction because this one got a little bit more complicated than the other ones. They did say write the approximate answer, and since they said that, I'm going to go ahead and type the pi into my calculator. So it says 12.56 2 pi 12, and then we've got times 360. So I'm typing this exactly into my calculator. What types of answers should we get for the measure of an arc? It's probably going to be a decimal, you're right. How big could the number be? Could it be like 1,000? No. How big could that answer be? It has to be less than 360 because it's the measure of an angle. Okay, so if you get like 782, your answer is wrong. I don't even have to look at your work. I know it's wrong. Does that make sense? So the measure of the angle should be smaller than that. So 59.969, well then 69 is going to round up to 70. So 59.970. Does that angle look reasonable? Yeah, it's a pretty reasonable angle for this picture, yeah. And that's what we do for all of those. When we get to the next page and they start giving us an area, are we going to start with the same proportion? We're going to use the other proportion. You hit alpha, the green button. Alpha y equals. And that lets you put your fraction. Okay, so go ahead and alpha y equals the number 1 is what allows you to type it in as a fraction like that. Okay. All right, so we are working on 13 through 24, and then when you guys get to the story problems, if you need me to help you, I can help with those too. Okay? There is no video for homework tonight. You are just finishing this packet. That's all you're doing. So if you guys remember, we talked about this on Tuesday, but that was a while ago. Before the break, we would have been having a quiz, like the day we came back from break. So we decided not to learn this on Tuesday, so we could learn it today instead. Tomorrow, we're going to do some review stuff. On Wednesday, at the beginning of class, we're going to have a quiz. At the beginning of class. So tomorrow, we're doing review stuff. At the beginning of class on Wednesday, you're going to come and take a quiz first thing. Okay? We have like 3 weeks until finals. Yeah, so we are very close. This is going to be our last full unit probably. So there's a pretty good chance this is going to be our last test. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, so we might be able to get in a quiz for the next unit, but we're not going to get very deep into it. Okay?
When is our, like, how
Your finals on Thursday of exam week.
Okay, we're supposed to have an advisory tomorrow, right? Talk about like the exam schedule and everything.
Oh yeah, I do think that's right.